after the concept of features of planning, students, we have another important concept as process of planning, and for this you need to remember OP, IA, EA, SA and IF. See students, as this is a process which has to be carried out step by step in a chronological order, so we cannot change the sequence of this process and these concepts. So O being the first step, P being the second step, third step IA, fourth step EA, fifth step SA, sixth one I and seventh one as F. So this is a 7-step process that we'll see from NCERT, that how are we supposed to explain them. Students, now let us see this planning process in detail from NCERT. So as the very first step we have talked about, it's O standing for setting of objectives. It is clearly mentioned that every organization must have a certain set of objectives that governs the entire organization and its each department and units that it achieves, that it strives to achieve, and these objectives must be clearly defined to all the departments, units and the employees working under them, so as to make it attainable, and the managers must contribute to the ideas and participate in this process of objective setting, and these objectives have to be understandable and achievable, clearly fit in the minds of all the persons working behind. So the next in line is P, standing for planning premises. Now students, as we have talked about, this future is highly uncertain and we are completely not able to predict that what can happen in the coming time. So therefore, if we are planning for such a process that is not yet happened and in a course of time will appear, so we have to make some assumptions regarding the future, and these assumptions are nothing but the planning premises. So don't get confused that what are these premises. These are simply the assumptions that we need to carry for the future in order to make certain set of plans. It includes some forecasts, and all managers should be involved in planning. They should be familiar with the same assumptions so that everybody can work on the same lines. So it is covered under the technique called developing premises. Now the third one being IA, we talk about the three sequence IA, EA and SA. So here everywhere students, A stands for alternatives. First of all, in the planning process, आप जब भी देखते हैं आपको कुछ प्लान करने दिया जाता है, मे बी फॉर एन अपकमिंग हॉलीडे और मे बी फॉर योर स्टडीज़, फॉर योर अपकमिंग बोर्ड एग्जाम्स. So you always see for the options, the viable options that are available. So identifying those options or alternatives is the first and the foremost task, and that is why we have taken these letters IA, where you identify the alternative courses of actions that are available. Option 1, option 2, option 3. So like this we see all the options and we write it clearly down on a piece of paper while doing this mental exercise called planning. Now once we have a clear set of options available and we can see them thoroughly, we have to work on each alternative to evaluate as far as its negatives and positives are concerned. So here these many variables, they have to be weighed against each other. The positive and negative aspects of each proposal should be evaluated in the light of the objectives being set. जो हमने goals set किए हैं उसको मद्देनज़र रखते हुए हमें ये सारे alternatives जो हमारे पास available options हैं इनको evaluate करना होता है, that which option is the best for our work. And ultimately when we are completed with the evaluation process, we come to a decision and we select the most fruitful option that is available, and the best plan is adopted and implemented. So that is how SA, leading to selection of that alternative. And always remember students that selection of this alternative is mathematical because it is based on many calculations for judging the accuracy of the selected alternative, and it is also subjectively based on the experience, judgments, and we can say the intuition ability of the managers involved. So intuition also has an important role to play in the selection of alternatives. Then next in line is I and F, I representing implementation of the particularly selected plan and putting the plan into action, which is definitely required because till now everything is on the paper and nothing will work unless and until it will be put into actions. And after that, once we have already implemented, we must also take up the follow-up action to see and regularly monitor that whether we are ensuring the objectives of the organization being followed or not. So this is all regarding the process of planning. And now let us see a few questions, students, that have been asked over the period of time from these chapters that we have discussed, that is features and the process in the steps of planning. So when Chandrasekhar Shukla returned to India, so this is a case based question, student, and let me tell you, this name reminds me that it is a case based question of this particular year that has appeared in your sample paper for 24-25. It's a 4-marker given in the sample paper and it's a case based question. So let us read it. The question first, last line. Identify and explain the features of one of the functions of management. So when you read such a line, students, in exam, you must remember that functions of management are nothing but POS, DC. So you have to identify the function first of all, and then from that particular function that you have identified, you have to talk about its features. So let us see that which function is this. When Chandrasekhar Shukla returned to India after completing a certificate course in food quality assurance and quality control from Netherlands, he was convinced that he would fulfill his grandfather's dream of converting their 58-acre land into a fertile farm. So Mr. Chandrasekhar is up to his grandfather's dream of converting their heritage land into a fertile farm. He started by setting out specific goals. So you see, he's setting up objectives, laid down related activities to be performed to achieve the goals. Soon he launched his own company, Food and Agricultural Solutions Private Limited. So he has set up his goals and he's working on all the related activities, and finally he has come up with his own company on this name. It's a private limited company. He sought to ensure that the future events effectively meet the best interest of the company. And for this, so it's also talking about something in future. So all these things, students, is giving us a clear-cut indication that if you have read the features of this function properly, you can get an indication that it is talking about the concept of planning. He has prepared an annual statement for production and sales based on the sales forecasting, another important word coming here. He noticed that the farms grew only paddy, due to which land remained idle for the subsequent 8 to 9 months of the year. So farmers were only growing paddy in the fields, and therefore the fields were remaining idle for the next 8 to 9 months in the year. So there was not the concept of mixed cropping here that he could identify. Since he has set up his goals, he is talking about the future plans and events. He is also forecasting to get the work done and to let the objectives achieved. So he is more or less doing planning. He has identified and assessed various alternatives. Now you see, students, you have got the clear-cut answer to the question that he has also identified alternatives. He has also evaluated those alternatives through which the farms could be utilized for the remaining months. Through his accurate vision, judgment and systematic thinking, so he is applying all his subjective subjectivity based on analysis of the facts. So he has also utilized the numerical figures as we talked about. He has presented a scheme to the farmers that where both paddy and vegetables could be grown together. So you see, almost all the steps of planning has been covered here, starting from setting of objectives to development of planning premises, then identifying those alternatives, evaluating them, selecting the best one, and finally implementing with a scheme of action, and later on follow up will also be taken up. So it is clearly, we can say, out of these 5, it's the process of planning, P. And now we are supposed to explain its features. Now, as we talked in the previous topic, students, about the features of planning, if you remember, there was a match between Delhi and Mumbai Football Club. So opposite, they were playing opposite to each other. So this gets you to all the features of planning, OPP, DMFC. And since it is a 4 marker, you are supposed to give at least 4 points out of these 7 points which are involved here. So let us quickly have an overview. O was representing the setting of goals and objectives. P was the primary function. Again, the P was for being pervasive. Then D included decision making. M was a mental exercise. F leading to the futuristic goals and something for future, and C represented the continuous function. So among these 7, you have to opt for 4 which are more suitable in this particular case study. So we can say that yes, Mr. Chandrasekhar was setting objective, we can choose this one. He was also doing some exercise decisions, taking some decisions, because finally he has come up with a suitable scheme for the farmers and he has presented a scheme to them to grow paddy and vegetables together. Similarly, he was doing a mental exercise, because planning is nothing but a mental exercise, and it was also related to future. So we can talk about this point as well. Continuity is also inherent in this function, but 4 most prominent points you can choose, students, which has been talked about in this particular case study. So moving on to the next question now. This is more or less a direct question. As I told you, students, from this question you can expect this internal choice, because usually it comes in 3 markers and 4 markers. So here the first one is planning is worth the huge cost involved, and you have to answer in support. So worth the huge cost means directly the question is talking about importance of planning, that in spite of involving the huge costs, it is still feasible to conduct the plans. So we'll talk about this particular topic later in the video. First, let us see the option part. If the project is important, then more alternatives should be generated and discussed amongst the members of the organization. Now we have to identify and explain the step in the process of planning that has been talked about. So more alternatives should be generated means it is IA, identification of alternatives, and discussed. So discussion leads to evaluation of alternatives, because we will discuss for evaluating the pros and cons attached to a particular alternative. So the process that has been talked about is planning, and the step of that particular process will be evaluation of identification and evaluation, you can write like this, of alternatives. Now we have to explain the remaining steps. So if you know the acronym, students, as I told you, it cannot be changed, the acronym cannot be changed as it is in chronological sequence. So it was OP, IA, EA, SA and if. So these were the 7 steps in the process, and we have started from somewhere here, IA and EA, identification and evaluation of alternatives. So next in line are the 3 remaining steps: selection of alternatives, its implementation, and ultimately the follow-up action. So these 3 steps you need to talk about in the remaining part of your answer. So again, if it is a 4 marker, you will be given 1 mark for identification of the clear step IA and EA, and when you will give the next 3 steps in line, you will get another 3 marks. So this can be broken up into 1 plus 3. So such type of questions are expected from this particular topic, students. I hope the topic is very clear. Thank you.